Hello, welcome to the Divine MF podcast. I'm Richard H. Plime.
I'm Nancy Thurman.
Yes, and so for today, this is kind of the part two from the last episode. Last episode, we talked about the distortions of yin. Mm-hmm. Today, we are going to be talking about the distortions of yang. So the distortions in perception of yang. So kind of what yang isn't, so that we can see what yang is. So again, the yang definition is will. So having direction and a magnitude. So it's a vector being pointed in a direction, and there's a magnitude of energy thrusting or driving towards the directed destination.
Would you say that's intention also?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Will, intention, drive, focus.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great.
So how are you going to start with the two distortions?
Yeah, well, I think there's more than two distortions. I actually have no idea how to do this today. So I've taken a lot of notes, and this has been a through line with a lot of the work I've been doing lately. Mm-hmm. However, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. So we'll see how it goes. I do want to kind of narrow it down to two parts and see how we get to, hopefully without me fumbling around too much. So the first part is kind of taking what current Western culture is wanting to steer men away from, and so why those things are not true yang. So this is kind of, I guess, what would be loosely grouped into toxic masculinity. That's toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. So all of these, kind of all of the attributes or traits that would fall under that kind of vast and getting vaguer umbrella, kind of look at some of those and discuss why that is not true yang or the divine masculine. And then the second half would be looking at what current Western culture is steering men towards. Do this, be like this, why those attributes are not yang either. Mm-hmm. And definitely not the divine masculine whatsoever. And so with these two, it's not this, it's not that. Hopefully we'll be able to see what in fact is yang, the divine masculine.
Exciting.
Yeah. So, okay, so what is it not? I don't know, toxic masculinity, what's one of the first things that you think of when you think of toxic masculinity?
Yeah, 1950s mindsets. Mm-hmm. The honeymooners.
Right.
Like we've discussed in the past. But a toxic masculinity is an energy that tries to overpower and control. This is in my eyes, it's trying to control an environment, a situation, a circumstance, a person, a thing, action, anything.
Right. Okay. Yes. So being the dominator, dominating.
Right.
The alpha dog. I'm in charge of the pack. I'm the king of the castle. I'm in charge. Mm-hmm. And so, great. So what that is doing loosely, and cool. We'll talk about what some of those traits might be. But to begin, this sort of dominating mindset or this dominating mode of being is actually a lack of focus. So rather than the focus being on the purpose of like, what am I driving towards as the yang? What is it that I want to accomplish in this life? It's this distortion of, instead of focusing on keeping my eyes on the prize, my focus is on taking out anybody that I would perceive as a threat to me getting that prize. Uh-huh. And so this kind of tearing down of others, whether it's your competition or whether it's your partnership, the feminine energy around you, by being in charge of that, giving this inflated false sense of power via controlling. Uh-huh. What that's doing is it's not only being harmful to the other people that you are imparting that to, but it's it's a misfocus, it's a misfire. So rather than focusing eyes on the prize, my focus is on keeping everybody away and out. Like whack-a-mole and people in various ways. And if I'm busy whack-a-moling, every time I'm whack-a-moling somebody, I'm not anywhere near driving towards my purpose.
Right. That makes so much sense. That's an awesome way of describing that. It's almost like a distraction.
It's completely, yes, it's a distraction.
Yes.
And that can be, and it's, as I see it, driven from fear. So either a fear of not being worthy is one. I'm not brave enough to actually go for it, so let me spend my whole time with this distraction. Because to actually go for it is scary, which it is scary, and it ought to be scary. I'd say if it doesn't freak you out a lot bit, it's probably not your true purpose or calling. There's probably something even more epic to drive for in life. And so it's either that, being too afraid to do it, I can't really make it, or well, I guess that's it. I thought I had another perspective of the not worthiness or the fear.
What other advantage would you say actually comes from exerting power and control?
So what is the perceived benefit of doing that?
Besides just feeling not worthy.
Right. So let's see. So if I'm whack-a-moling, yeah, it's this feeling of, oh, I can be in charge of all of these people. I am now important. So that's satisfying the ego, probably to a degree. But again, there's nothing productive about that. Even if even if the desire is to rule, to be a leader, like to own a business, for example, to run a company, that's again the focus is being on the self, the ego. I am running the company, so let me just show everybody that I'm in charge. Well, you can accomplish that, no problem. Everyone will probably can't stand you, and you'll have a lot of turnover in your job. But again, the focus is on keeping me at the top of this triangle that I ultimately made up for myself. Right. I created it. The true owner, runner, operator, CEO of a business, their job is the success of the business. And so keeping everybody down to be in charge is actually stifling the progress of the business. So you're really not running the business. What you're doing is me being in charge. So again, it's that same lack of focus in the wrong direction. Focus on self. There's a loop.
There must be some kind of advantage that the ego is seeing and imagining in the whack-a-mole. There has to be an advantage that the ego is seeing. That sense of control. I mean, that's pretty much anytime someone is yanging and they're trying to control their scenario. Truthfully, I'm kind of feeling like it's a feeling of I need to survive.
Yes, safety. Sure.
It's a huge safety security drive.
Right.
It's kind of how I'm feeling there. That's kind of my download about it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That would be the perceived benefit. Okay, I'm safe if I'm in charge and I'm in control.
Because if something gets out of balance over here, the whole thing may fall down.
Right.
It's a sense of this is a house of cards, and if I don't keep every card in place all the time, it's all going to fall.
Right.
It's a lack of faith. That life happens.
Yeah, that's excellent. So if it is, faith is required. Okay, so I don't have to have control. I'm driving towards this purpose. Maybe it's not safe, but to do it anyway. So
So Yang actually, kind of kind of a different perspective of this, Yang is actually okay with the threat of death. A solid divine Yang
Right.
is okay with the threat of death, correct?
Right. Yes, sure. I need to do this even if it costs my life. This needs to happen.
Very Viking-esque.
Yes, totally Vikings.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's very ironic that a fear driven by a little ego that's causing this power, I want to control everything.
Right.
It is a total distortion of Yang.
Yes, I'm too scared to go do this dangerous thing, so let me just show everybody that I'm not afraid and never have to go do the thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
That makes total sense.
Yes. Total, and that's a total turnoff for anybody around that.
Oh yeah.
And there's the perception that, oh yeah, they're submitting to me. It's like, no, they're just kind of walking away.
A lot of times, yes. So when you have excessive anger issues, when you have excessive control issues, which is what we're talking about with this distorted Yang, yeah, you're gonna lose friends, you're gonna lose significant others, you're going to not connect to people, which helps move growth and progress.
Right.
When you're actually connected in a yin-yang manner.
Right.
That actually helps with growth. This is very stifling.
Yes.
It's a stifling energy.
Yes. So let's see. So if I were to talk to somebody who wanted to be at the top of the food chain, whatever, it's a dog-eat-dog world.
Yep.
No, I got it. And like creating that as the purpose to like be at the top and stay at the top. I don't know why I'm just thinking about like mafia movies.
Yes, that's okay.
I know nothing about the real mafia, but mafia movies I've seen a few. So I don't know, this could be just movies. But yeah, so if I were to talk to somebody that was like interested in that, what would be the redirection, or how could I suggest that that's not true Yang? I mean, I guess for a few that would be, if that's truly what they want, then I guess, yeah, go for it. But my first question would be, what is created out of that?
Right.
Like what purpose, like what does this serve? What is the benefit? If
The
you're the
big
top
picture.
dog. Yeah, what is the big picture? What is the signature that you leave on this world at the end of your life?
Right.
Other than I ran my part of the world. Or I ran the world. Like...
And I had a heart attack and a stroke while doing it.
Right. I mean, none of those, I mean, throughout history, those aren't the figures that we really talk about.
Right.
Or celebrate. And we have many, like, tyrannical figures throughout human history. And we remember some of them, some of the major trauma causers. But they're not celebrated, and they're not ultimately remembered or regarded in the way that those are who made a difference.
Right.
A lasting difference for other people.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess that would be my question to that type. How can you using a lot of your proclivities for strength, for this perceived valor, how can you direct that? So I would say that that's a person that has a lot of magnitude in the vector.
Yes.
So this vector of direction. So the will would be a vector. So having a direction and a magnitude of energy around it.
Right.
This person, I'd say, has a lot of magnitude.
And
if it's about self-building or keeping the self at the top, I'd say that direction is kind of this loop. Rather than an arrow.
Right.
Like, so it's not really going anywhere.
It eventually
It's spinning wheels.
spins out.
Yes.
Yeah, the spinning wheel
Right.
mode.
Yes.
This is actually a very good time to talk about this. What about war and conquests? Because I thought of Genghis Khan immediately when you were talking about like historical figures.
Tell us about Genghis Khan.
Well, I don't know. He did. Supposedly he killed a whole lot of people, and he was pretty cruel. and human to human interactions didn't seem to historically be something he cared about.
Right.
It was more about the conquest and the power.
Mm-hmm.
That's an extreme yang. But truthfully, war is this is some deep stuff we're talking about here, especially right now.
Right. 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
War.
Oh yeah.
Go.
Let's go to war.
Okay, let's talk war.
Let's talk war. But that's an excessive yang trait. Really.
Conquest, yes. I mean, because war is also protecting. There's also a defense, so defending. And so, in that sense, I'd say it's quite necessary. And the divine masculine ought to be prepared for protecting the home, the community, the resources. So I'd say that's, even though, so war, loosely here we have conquest and the defender, I'd say the defense is necessary.
Yes.
The conquest, that also could be necessary.
Exactly.
It's like if there's some society that's truly depleted of resources and they really need to go, find them.
In order to the entire village to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the go-to is take over. Maybe it's just
to rape and pillage.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't have to go straight to that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of diplomacy.
Yes. And this is where wisdom, I think, is the key.
Right.
So yes, discernment, wisdom, and actually seeing another human being as a human being.
Right.
As opposed to seeing it as an object, another human being as an object of controlled conquest.
Right.
That may be kind of, it's has to do with that consciousness yet again. We're talking divine feminine, divine masculine,
sure.
yin and yang.
Right.
So it involves a consciousness piece.
Mm-hmm.
And a wisdom and a discernment piece.
Right.
Just wielding the sword and just swinging around the sword
right.
is not divine by any means.
No.
Bring it down, folks.
Yeah, take it down.
Take it down a notch.
So, okay, did we just sidestep the whole war thing? I don't know how much. I'm not an expert of war.
No. I would love to eventually talk with somebody about it.
That could be good.
Yes.
Maybe we could bring somebody on sometime.
Yes. I know a few folks in military.
Yeah, I know a couple.
Yeah.
Okay. So if something pops up again, maybe we'll go back to it. But right now, I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, so some of these quote masculine traits. The first one that I came up with was this: not showing emotions. That showing emotions is weak, and you're not a man if you're showing emotions, and so I'd say that holding back emotions is it's giving this perception of being in control. To not show that I'm not in control. That's a weak spot. And so I am curious on from the feminine perspective of that and from the yin perspective, but let me just kind of finish and then fill it in.
Okay.
So that's giving the perception of control. Oh, I'm in control. I'm not showing emotion. And so I thought, okay, so if yang is will, this direction with the magnitude of energy, then what does the emotional response imply other than this perception of weakness? What is it really happening? Yeah. And so the first thing I thought of was it's giving up. Just throwing in the towel. To break down and cry. Yeah. That's the phrase, break down and cry. So breaking down is no more movement, no more flow in a direction. It's stagnant. Right. And so that's not will. So we have that. But I think that it's possible to.
Yeah.
I think that it's possible to separate emotional response happening from giving up. because there's, you know, fighting through, there's this other phrase, fighting through tears.
Right.
You can still have the tears and still be driving forward and sometimes rest is needed. So I think that having an emotional response does not have to mean giving up. You were going to say stuff.
So what came to my mind was a yang energy is actually completeness. So, you know, an end. Boom. You know, let's stop the conversation. Let's end the conversation. You know, the yin is like, let's keep talking. Let's work through it, you know. But if you actually go through an emotional release and you see a cry as an emotional release, it ends it. Right. It does have a completeness to it. It does have a yang quality.
That's so funny because, see, I would say that yin is actually the complete. Like the ends meet. Yeah. Whereas the yang I just see more of like as a line, just this like, so it's just always going. Right. Now, if let's use an arrow.
Okay.
And let's call the emotion like the feathers at the back of the arrow being frayed. And so holding that back, the emotion would be the tension of this feather that are skewed, which actually slow down the arrow, and with the air resistance can swerve it from the target.
Oh yeah.
So to stop for a moment, I mean, an arrow can't stop, but to be able to trim down that arrow, that feather, or get rid of it, right. That's the emotional release.
Right.
So that the arrow can be again functioning efficiently.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So yet again we come back to the 95% yang with the 5% yin. Mm-hmm. You do a little release, let the emotion come through, it's complete, keep rolling.
Right. Yes. So I think the bottom, to even kind of go more overview, it's that whatever it takes to achieve this, even to cry tonight, for the purpose of moving forward.
Yes.
Now, the caveat I'd say is that others don't need to be harmed. So doing whatever it takes does not mean plowing through people or over people. That I think is not necessary.
Right.
I think that those kind of conflicts are actually just redirections towards more economy, more efficiency.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that. However, whatever it takes to not stop. When it is giving up, then but giving up is not an emotional release.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that balanced yang. Is what we're looking for.
Right.
It's not Stoicism. That's the other word that came to my mind. You've been delving into that concept a little bit here lately, and we've talked a little bit about it in private. Stoicism is yang. But at what point is it a harmful or an unbalanced, distorted yang? That's kind of an interesting.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. It's really the same that we're talking about here with Stoicism, as I'm understanding it so far. Because we associate it with having like a stiff upper lip and just like never showing emotion and just. But that's not Stoicism at all. Stoicism truly is the art of living life in the best way possible. That's what it's about. And so it is a lot of action, but it's also a lot of thinking and reflecting and studying and self-awareness throughout. And so, and that's probably what we see visually as being still and internal and a stiff upper lip. That's actually an example of a Stoic processing, likely. And so it's not I'm being don't show, it's being okay, this is what's going on. This is how I feel like I want to respond. I don't think that would be the best way. Over here, like this might happen. Da, 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 da. So it's weighing out the best options. We call that stoic.
Right.
From the outside perspective, it just looks like
Non-responsive.
right, and that's not what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is it's a consciousness piece yet again.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about self-awareness and also intentional. I am working through this.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, working through this.
At what point, this is the question for the yin energy in the relationship. If you're talking a one-on-one relationship, a yin energy may actually start looking at what's going on. What's going on? And I know that I've had this experience in the past. Not so much with you, because your stoicism, when you express that, is pretty short-lived, and because you have an intention of moving forward like a healthy masculine.
So the stoicism being the moment of pause, quiet.
Right.
I don't say anything.
Right.
For like 5 minutes or 20 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
For an hour. It's okay. But as opposed to weeks. So I've been in the situation before where there's a lot of shit happening in his life, who is embodying masculine, and super confused and literally just spinning. So getting into that self-reflection to where they're almost shut down. Now, at that point, that's when a yin is probably going to inject energy and try to prod. What's going on? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you not getting over this? You know, and we're talking weeks to months after some big stuff has happened. We're not, and even years. So there are situations where a yin will probably try to nag.
Okay.
When that energy starts swirling around and it just stays there.
Right. So there is a balance between, yes, this reflecting, but you also have to make a move.
Yeah.
So there is that balance for when to be in action and when to kind of be planning. And yes, there can be an imbalance either way, plowing through forever and then also never making a move. It's a balance of both of those, the magnitude of energy and the direction. So one of the tenets of Stoicism is it's narrowing down into what is in your control and what is not. Yes. What is something I can have a direct effect on and what is something that I cannot. Right. The things that you cannot have a direct effect on are forgotten and released as much as possible. There's no reason fretting about that. I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it's raining today. I can look at the weather and I can plan my trip accordingly, and I can decide to come here not in like hurricane season. I don't think we're actually in hurricane season. I'm just making this all up.
By the way, we're in the Outer Banks. If you didn't.
With a hurricane warning, apparently?
No, just tornado.
Oh, tornado
just
warning.
A tornado.
A tornado warning. Yeah. I'm just used to earthquakes out of nowhere, and that's it. Otherwise, it's beautiful. Okay, so that would be in my control, is to decide when to do the trip, how to do it. I could check the weather. I could have canceled the trip, but here we are. All the decisions we made brought us here, and so now the rain is not something to fret about. What we can think about is, okay, how is the shelter? Okay, it's great. We have food. Okay, great. Our transportation if needed. Yes. Those are all of the things that I can put energy to. And so for the person who is just always spinning their wheels or always stuck, that's a nice way into action, is what are the things that I am able to have a direct effect, an immediate effect on. And to begin small. For someone who's in a huge spin out, start very, very small. Very, very small. I can be in charge of having quiet for well, maybe they're having too much quiet. I can be in charge of taking a walk. Nice. Now I'm moving. This is great. Okay, now what? Now I can be in charge of responding to that email. I sent the response. I don't have to worry about the outcome of that email response. That person's going to say whatever. But I did the outreach. I made that communication. That is in my immediate control. So now I don't have to worry about that. So that's what I would say to that.
Small steps
Mm-hmm.
to change the momentum.
Yes, and then kind of going back again to the moments where I'm in that reflecting place. I can say that the most direct solution is honestly speaking the problem or inner conflict to you. Literally, just this is what's going on right now. I'm wondering between this and this. Right now I'm feeling like, without the blow up of like, rah, the world's not working and it's raining outside. But just to be aware of that. Oh, I feel like the world is broken and it's raining outside.
Yes.
Like if that's all I can utter, just uttering that.
Yes.
And then from there, like I have the trust in you.
Yes.
As my partner to help support, because we have this understanding of the direction we are going together.
And a yin that is truly supporting, a yin will rise to that occasion.
Yes.
A yin is going to look for what can I support you in.
Right.
They don't necessarily come out and say it, but as soon as the words come out, like literally your heart chakra is opening up through your throat chakra, you are expressing yourself.
Right.
And that heart chakra is open, and a yin recognizes that in a heartbeat, and they're going to rise to the occasion and be there for you.
Yes, and that's desired, we would say.
Right.
Yes. So
That's what it's about.
That is the support that the yang receives. So it's not being a leader, or it's not being the man of the house to just never seek that and just go, no, we're doing this, and no, and then have your partner just sitting there watching you spin your wheels. That does nothing. That does not help you achieve your purpose. So rather than, in doing this old like 1950s, just iron my shirt and la la la.
And shut up, woman.
Yeah, that is not it. Iron your own shirt. Unless it truly is to both of you, like ironing the shirt helps. Yes. So, I mean, I don't know, just parenthetically, there have been times where I'm doing the laundry because that's most effective for both of us. And then vice versa.
Right.
And there are also times when I'm ironing my own shirt. So it's really, it doesn't matter what it looks like. But the point is not to have your yin be that sort of assistant, but to actually be your co-pilot and actually, like, it's this whole other complete person that's here with you.
Yeah.
That decided to be with you through. So let them be with you through. Not next to you and not outside of your own little inner cloud of crap.
Or even behind you.
Yes, definitely.
Been there, done that. Also.
Nice.
Yes.
So other perceptions of like what this old masculine is. So another one I wrote down was having a deep voice.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. Like, so this whole, because we like, I've heard a lot over the last years about like women being told, oh, like speak in a high-pitched voice, like da-da-da. Well, it's the same thing. We all ruin ourselves, like generationally. Like young boys are told that, you have a deep voice and that's being tough, and then you won't be messed with, and so there's this distortion of males usually who they kind of speak in their throat like this, with the perception of this as having a deep voice, and I'm being a man, and this is it, and but what's actually happening is I'm closing off my throat and my airway to speak like this, and it's literally a closedness in your body, and so I mean, it's quite possible to have a deep voice, but you can have a deep voice with resonance, which is actually a big giving of yourself. It requires a lot of airflow and a lot of openness in the throat to speak like this.
Yes.
It's also not feminine to have moments where you're speaking in a higher register.
Mm-hmm.
It can be quite effective.
Uh-huh.
So we all have like a huge gamut, and this is for the women too, for the yin and for the yang, however your body looks and however you're expressing yourself. We all have we have like a 2 to 4 octave range of natural speaking pitch.
So, I have a question for you.
Sure.
When you say I do my doctor persona,
Yeah.
does my voice change?
Yes.
It doesn't go lower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, your voice goes lower, but it has a more downward inflection,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which is giving the idea of speaking with authority, having a downward inflection.
Right.
And then, and your face hardens. Like literally.
Yeah.
Like your face
because
looks different.
It's a yang career.
Right.
You know, being an anesthesiologist. So yeah.
Sure. So the deep voice is not, there's nothing masculine about that. I would say having an openness in your throat. Well, one, you're allowing more oxygen into your body, which is more useful for physical activity and brain activity, right, doctor?
Correct.
More oxygen in the brain is good.
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go. And in an openness of communication, that's actually true courage, is vulnerability.
Yeah.
The ability to be wounded, that is courageous. And so by having an openness in your voice, whether you're speaking deeply or if you're speaking even up here to someone for whatever reason or purpose, you know, maybe if I'm coaxing a kitty to get out of the damaged whatever car motor. I know a story of like a cat being up into a truck and being stuck in the motor.
Yeah.
The cat was fine at the end. So to have an openness, that's reaching the other people that you're communicating with, and that will drive the energy towards whatever wherever you are aiming, whether it's to get a cat out or to run a multi-million-dollar company.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the deep voice.
That's excellent. I love that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wee. So then, macho, tough, kick ass, kicking ass. Yeah, so that's all these dominator qualities.
Yes.
And I think we talked about that already.
Mm-hmm.
The like, if I'm busy dominating the other people and doing this like whack-a-mole thing, that's another spinning of the wheels for my own perceived safety rather than actually just going to do my purpose.
Right.
Which will feel dangerous and will be vulnerable because it's something that likely has never been done, or certainly hasn't been done in this way. That's why you have the drive to do it. That it's your gift to the world in your life. There's no reason to give a gift that's already been given elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So it is to carve your own path, and it is scary, and it is vulnerable, and it is like will cost you your life. You're spending your life doing that. So whether it's immediate danger, like out in the wilderness, or it's like your 50 years of building something and changing the way an industry works, that was your life. So it will cost you your life.
Right.
One way or another. So either way, you can spin your wheels out for your life, or you can drive towards that for your life.
Right.
Not to be too nihilist about all this. Okay, your partner is not your assistant.
Yeah.
She's also not your mother. So this other thing is this whole I don't know. The perfect example is Everybody Loves Raymond, the TV show.
Yes.
So where like the character Raymond was just always just kind of never really wanted to do anything. Like, I just want to watch the game and be a sports writer, and so he had his drive in that way. So he had his purpose there.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the character. So it's Ray Romano played the character. I'm talking about Ray Barone, the character, not Ray Romano, the actor. So just to be clear. So Ray Barone, the character. So he was a sports writer. So he was a good sports writer. But the show centered around his domestic life, and so often he was not wanting to do stuff. and Deb, his wife, was having to kind of manage and prod him into action.
Yes.
And so it was the kind of the things we would laugh. I mean, it was a comedy, a sitcom. So, he's leaving his clothes on the floor, his dirty, like, who's going to unpack the suitcase is one episode that jumps out at me. Just leave the stuff there. Oh, she cooks, so I'm going to not, so it's not this, like, dominating her, but it's just this, like, oh, that's her job, and I just want to sit here and watch the game.
Right.
And so that is a huge lack of movement in a direction.
Right. So would you say that's a not excessive? It's not excessive yang. It's not enough yang.
I say it's
or
this.
Or is it dispersed yang?
So I'd say, to use Jung, it's rather than being the king on the throne, it's thinking that you're doing that, but really what's happening is it's being this little high chair baby.
Yeah. Yes.
Throwing the food and making a mess, and everything is cleaned up and everything is taken care of around me by, like, mom. Like, your partner is not your mom in that way. You are an adult. So rather than being the king on the throne, where things do happen, but there's, like, a direction, there's a consciousness about it.
Yes.
It's this lack of consciousness, stagnancy, and just kind of expecting things to happen around you.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say that's yinning necessarily,
Yeah.
but it's this, it's a distortion of perception rather than, actually heading the household in this moment, holding the space.
Yes.
It's just this kind of abandon. It's a laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A torpor.
Is it a complacency?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Totally.
Uh-huh. I can think of a situation that we've come across recently where a male figure that actually has pretty decently healthy masculine qualities sometimes actually expected his wife to remember things that he had ordered on the menu 3 months prior.
Mm.
And then he also asked me, which is really funny. It's an energy of expecting everyone around you to take care of your mental processes.
Right. Yes. And
they don't matter to you anymore.
Right. And that's this perception of, that's why I'm supported in that way. But that's, every individual is in charge of their own body. And that includes what you order and take into your body at a restaurant, what you eat, and order to drink or whatever. So that's an example of this Ray Barone kind of thing. Yes, that's just, to me, an arbitrary thing for your partner to be supporting. Like, why not give your partner the respect to support you in important ways, rather than depending on them to be your assistant in that way? It's something so mundane as what did I eat?
Right.
Because also, who cares whatever I ate, 3 months ago or every time ago? Like, that's not right now.
Right.
What do I want right now? What was my day today? How hungry am I? And do I need protein, or do I need to have more vegetables? I don't know. There's just a lot of other factors other than what I did last time.
Yes.
To me.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a fun little example. And also, that was just such a minute thing. Again, like, we're taking it with this podcast, these instances, and really diving into them, microscoping them. So, so these people that we went to eat with were wonderful. And totally,
normal.
Normal
Totally
people. Fine, nothing to write home about or podcast about. Okay.
Is this a good time for our? Yeah, this podcast is sponsored by Sharing Our Journeys. That's our coaching program. We actually we offer tools for the awakening life, and we help humans find their yin and yang balance for a better life. And the website is www.sharedheartjourneys.world, as well as sharedheartjourneys.com.
Yes.
And then also social media, Instagram and Facebook at Shared Heart Journeys.
Yes, yes. So we take the approach of helping our clients to find their unique, true yin-yang balance for themselves that feels best for them, and then use that as the foundation to build and structure their life in a way that is much more aligned and much more flowing.
And also relationships and
yes, all their career, relationships, home life, family, community.
Yeah, I didn't realize we'd gone 45 minutes already.
Yeah, I have just one more point on this, and then the where Western culture is steering us. So
Yes.
I guess we should just let this one be long, or we can break it up.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, we're gonna talk now, and maybe it'll be in 2 episodes with 2 links, or maybe not.
Yes.
Whatever.
Or and let's see where we go.
Let's just talk all day.
No, we're down with
We'll just do the whole.
We're doing a retreat, so yeah, we're good until the clients get here.
Yeah, 5 episodes until. Yeah, just 5 episodes of talking, all in and out. Okay, so the next thing was looking a little bit at the lover and this idea of seducing women or hitting on women, and asking women out on a date.
Oh yeah, that's
Yes.
great. That's a great subject.
Yeah. So pardon me for being het norm, all you folks that are not in a heterosexual circumstance. So just kind of use this as an overgeneralization example of yin yang, just for simplicity's sake. Because I'm not an expert on other iterations of the yin yang. So yes, so we're just going to kind of go for it in this very general, very broad, stereotypical fashion, just to kind of look at it a little bit. Okay, so so the hitting on a woman at the bar, oh, let me buy you a drink, let me have the pickup line, let me be smooth, let me be suave, let me be whatever, let me illustrate somehow that I'm, the hot, sexy guy.
Attractive.
That I'm attractive. Yes. Physically, that I can provide. Let me buy you a top shelf, whatever. So we can generally just call this peacocking. However it looks, this is showing off my feathers in a way in order to attract a mate. And so we do see that in the animal kingdom a lot, like the peacocking, and then we have the deer fight each other in front of the girls, and then the winner wins. That's not really necessary at all for us anymore. I mean, we all agree that, to get a date, you wouldn't take another guy in the bar and say, hey, let's go outside and duke it out, and the winner gets to ask her out.
Right.
Because she already went somewhere else.
Maybe it happened 600 years ago. But
I mean, I can't think of any. Yeah, I don't think I've ever even seen a bar fight, actually, at a bar I was staying.
Oh, I have. many times. Yeah, sorry.
Right,
I lived in the South, so it's a little different in the South.
All right, well, there goes my argument. But we could say that's not a typical thing, to go outside and beat someone's ass in order to get a date. That's not the method. And so we're not having to do any of this other sort of peacocking either. I think that the true way to attract your yin partner is to be yanging.
Divinely yanging.
Yes, the better you are yanging your purpose, the better the yin will be attracted to that. The more suitable yin, let's say, not better. The more suitable yin. So the more true you are to what you truly want to be doing, that's what you do. So you will attract the truest partner to that. The yin that most wants to support that.
Yes.
By peacocking or being this other you, or trying to, whatever in some way, I'm sure you can attract a yin, but they're going to attract a yin that wants that. And so now you're stuck with either, oh, I tricked you and now this is actually what I want and it's not going to work for her. Or you're stuck perpetuating this thing that you're not just to keep the yin around, and that's not good for you.
Right.
So ultimately, neither circumstances are good for either of you.
Right.
So rather than wasting your time trying to find a partner, the partner will find you, and you will know when the yin is attracted to you. You will know. You will be invited for conversation. That's really all the movies too. That happens in all the movies. They're at the bar and you have like the James Bond guy and he's like sitting there talking to her, and across the room like some beautiful woman in a dress like looks at him and like does some sort of gesture. He's invited to talk. I can't think of a single James Bond movie where he walks in and just like and shows how badass he is.
Yes.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. He's always sitting there with his martini looking good and gets an invitation that he responds to. And then he usually responds.
Right. So what happened with us?
No, I didn't do anything. All of a sudden I'm here on the East Coast. Well, that is really what I did. So the last few years prior to meeting you, I just kind of quit dating altogether. Well, there's a lot of distortions happening in Western culture, and I just wasn't interested in that sort of a dynamic.
Right.
So I said, well, forget it. I'm just going to fulfill my life's purpose. And I was frankly 100% prepared and content to just live my life single. And not in this, like, what is it called? There's a term for this too. Celibate?
Yes,
Yeah, but it's called, there's like this little cool, catchy, snarky term about being celibate involuntarily. Like, you can't get a girlfriend, so you're celibate. And like, there's this movement of stubborn little boy guys too, that are like the He-Man woman haters club. And like, there's a term for them, and it's something. What is it? Leave it in the comments if you know, please. Please comment or like comment on one of our Instagram posts. Celibate, incel. Involuntary celibate.
Oh, no shit. I've never heard this. Oh, wow.
Yes. So that's it. And then, so that's the ones that like they can't get a girlfriend. And I think there's a second term for the ones that are like, I don't want a girlfriend. Like all women and all feminine are in. He-Man woman haters, basically.
Yes.
And then that's another term. So anyway, what am I saying? It's not to be those. I got really lost in this.
So, where are you at? Let me hang you for a second.
So, yes, I'm back. So,
That's all it took was let me hang you for a second.
No.
I got this.
I'm the younger. No, so I wasn't into this other dynamic, so I was not wanting a relationship, but I was just quite comfortable. Like, let me just be as complete as possible and go about my life in the best way, working towards my goal. And the partner will, she'll come or not, and that's that. And I'm okay if she doesn't. So that's where I was coming from. I'd say for the 3 years up until meeting you. And when we met. Yeah, you reached out to me first. Yeah. So you left a comment on an Instagram post I made.
Yeah.
See, you will know when she wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
I didn't message you at all.
No. But you responded to that.
Oh, yeah.
And there was no games, there was no bullshit. It was just an appropriate response within a decent amount of time. There was no weird dynamic.
No. No game playing. Yeah, none of that's needed. If you're on your purpose and they're drawn to you, that's it. It's as simple as that.
And if you feel the yin, you obviously felt my yin energy immediately.
Yes.
And once we started dialoguing.
Yes, and all the yingers. I mean, there's plenty of YouTube stuff out there about where they will the channels where they will dissect, like, these are, I've heard them called choosing signals before, which is just a term for it, the invitation from the yang.
The yang, you mean?
Invitation from the yang. Yes, to the yang. Yes. And just what that looks like, and I don't know, we don't need to say what like they are.
Yeah.
They'll start initiate the conversation.
Yes.
A gesture. I was at a bar once, and I was just sitting hanging out with my friends, and like a girl bumped into me on the other side, and there was like plenty of. It was one of those places where the bar like is an island, and it wasn't that busy.
Yeah.
So I knew then. I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Like, you bumped into me. Like, so rather than just saying, oh, excuse me, getting back to my friend. Okay, well, there's the invitation. Hey, how's it going? You know, in 5 minutes, really 30 seconds, I was like, with this particular person. But that's an example of, there's an opening for you to dialogue. And that's it. And it's, hi, how are you? What are you about? This is what I'm about. You'll know. You'll know if you're driving, if you're vibing or not. So no need for the peacocking.
Right. The peacocking is a huge turn off.
Yeah.
Any healthier or more awake yin energy is not going to want peacocking.
Right. Yes, it doesn't work. And today, that is now like one of the toxic masculine things.
Right.
And so it actually, in a way, is quite helpful. So, now there's this whole, don't hit on people at work, you don't hit on people on the street, don't talk to me, don't. So it's really, it's like, well, how do I even talk to you without it being some sort of affront?
Right.
And so that's actually, that is the answer. Don't worry about it.
Keep focusing on your life's mission, your life's purpose.
Yeah.
And the correct yin will show up. And that you want a healthy yin. You don't want a feminine energy that's coming to you that's all has a lot of emotional baggage, and they haven't worked on themselves.
Right.
And they haven't dealt with a lot of their wounds from childhood or whatever. You don't want the drama queen.
Right. And if that's all you're getting, yang folks, if that's basically, it doesn't matter if it's that. If you are seeing the same type of person all the time, that is not what you want, that is a signal to you to investigate something about yourself that needs to be shifted.
Yes.
To get the partner that you do want. Like men, women, yin, yang, whatever, 100%. This I can safely say, 100%. If you keep attracting a type of person that you do not want, there is something for you to shift.
Yes.
About yourself.
Yes.
And then you will start to have a different type of person around your field.
Yes. Because once I shifted from a yang essence, and I actually consciously became very aware of my yang was way, way over the top when it came to attracting a significant other. Once I shifted to yin, that's when you showed up. I mean, it was just absolutely obvious. Yeah.
Yes.
And our relationship is by any means, is nothing like any of the previous relationships.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. High five.
Yeah. That's how you rock it.
Yeah.
Literally.
So I guess it was brief, but that's enough about attracting a mate for now, I'd say. Yeah.
We're about at an hour. Do you want to, is there anything else that you wanted to?
Yeah, I guess it could be its own episode. So briefly, the second part was the attributes that Western culture is currently steering men towards.
Oh.
And how that is not yang either.
I think actually that could be a really good long episode.
Okay. So that's that. Okay. So distortions of perspective of yang. Distortions of yang. This was part 1, I guess. So we'll do the other one sometime. I don't know if that'll be the next episode or not.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe it will.
We'll let you know in about 10 minutes. No, just kidding.
Well, you can know right now. What's the next episode available? unless you're catching them as we're throwing them.
Yes.
Okay. This feels complete.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
And thank you, guys.
Thank you. This has been Divine MF Podcast. Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine. Also Divine Motherfuckers.
That's right.
Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine. Brought to you by Shared Heart Journeys. You can go ahead and leave us a comment on YouTube. Please rate this podcast. We super appreciate it on whatever listening app you are doing. If you would rate it. Leave comments. Some of the apps you can't comment, so you can definitely hit us up at Instagram at Shared Heart Journeys.
And YouTube too.
Yeah, on YouTube you can leave a comment. All right. Thanks, Phil. Have a good one.
Thank you.